I asked God at one point, like, when am I going to wake up from this reincarnation, from this gilgul? Like, give me a chance, you know. I feel like I got a raw deal in certain ways. I grew up in a family of beautiful people, but they didn't understand me, and therefore I was kind of hurt, and I did things, and to this day, it's like very hard to be who I really want to be. And I found solace in this idea that whatever questions I have, I believe Hashem will not only answer me, but He'll open my eyes and my soul and tell me, do you understand now? And I'll say to you, well, what about this, and what about that, and ultimately, what about the Holocaust, and what about this? He says, okay, I'll give you more understanding. You understand now. You understand now. Wow. So deep. How did you do it? But the point is, yes, thank you so much, thank you. I want that thank you to be a part of my life now. Even though I'm not there yet. I don't know what the answers will be. But I really feel that I can own that thank you to Him. That I am who I am, and that He made me who He made me, even though I'm still completely imperfect and rough at the edges. Because I know I'm in a process, and I know that I have hope. It's a hopeful and very positive thing. This is the best I can do right now. Okay. I want to go back into here, into the real, the good part, right? The crescendo. We're here at the bottom of 95 a little bit, right? He repeats himself. And that's a repeat. Okay, let's just read it again. Third paragraph from the bottom of 96. Did I say 95? I'm sorry. Yeah. Know that whenever the time comes for a great soul to come to this world, it is impossible to extricate it except by means of deceit and trickery. What I described above about my own soul is an example of this. The Holy One brought me forth from their midst. Remember it said before that they brought me forth. Here he says the Holy One brought me forth. By making them think that I was one of them, God forbid, and could be trusted to do their dirty work. He therefore placed me in the Makif of the Maggid Mishnah. They thought that this would be to their advantage, but on the contrary, it was really to their detriment. For I turned on them and became their enemies. Last paragraph on 96. In the same way, you will see that many great souls are born into families of simple folk, or even wicked parents. Abraham was an example of this. Why do you think he was born to Terah, a high priest of idolatry? The soul of Abraham? How are you going to get a soul of Abraham into the world? He was one of those great souls that fell into the depths of the shell. How are they going to let one of those guys out and make sure that he's going to come back? They make him born to a Terah. It was the sages reveal, and it's mentioned in the Zohar. Terah irtach lemare. Terah infuriated his master, God. Literally caused his anger to boil. Lirtoach. Why? Terah lirtoach. When he engaged in marital relations with his wife during her menstrual period. That's exactly what the forces of evil were looking for. We'll put Abraham there into that. We'll make him be born from Terach's wife because he had relations with his wife during menstrual. I told my wife this. She said, wait a second, he wasn't Jewish. But as you know, in Australia and in Africa, what is menstruation? The women are separated into a whole different place for as long as the menstrual blood flows, right? So it's a very ancient thing among mankind. So for him to go and to transgress this taboo, right, is a pretty heavy thing. And yet, look what the Ari says, top of 97. But this is exactly what was needed to bring the great soul of Abraham Avinu into the world. For in this way, i.e., by allowing Abraham's mother to conceive during her menstrual period, Hashem, blessed be He, Rima, deceived the Hitzonim, and drew forth in that very seed the soul of Abraham Avinu, peace be on him. Thinking that this was to their benefit, the Hitzonim were caught completely unaware that this is exactly what Abraham's soul needed for his own tikkun rectification. So there's a lot of information here, but basically, like King David was the whole story we're going to get to in a minute. I hope I can do that justice. But Abraham was brought in. Again, they think that they can bring in this soul here, this really potentially very powerful soul with a very negative charge, to be born as a balmum, as an inbuilt blemish, because the mother was not did not go to the mikvah. So therefore, the child will be born with an inbuilt a very powerful sexual urge, right? And so therefore, they think that he'll now bring others back down. But God uses this to deceive. Second paragraph. This is also why Terach was later reincarnated into Job. So the Ari parenthetically reveals to us the behind the scenes behind why Job had to suffer. It was really Terach reincarnated. Why did Job have boils? Because the sages taught he who has relations with a woman in menstruation will be struck with tzara, skin disease. So he had to pay for what he had done. So that the Ari, this is a very profound thing. Why did Job have to suffer? He was a great guy. Besides what the Zohar says, the Ari reveals on the level of reincarnation, reveals that he's getting exactly what he deserved. Conversely, this is also why Abraham was cast into the fiery furnace by Nimrod. This is exactly what was needed to purify and purge him from the negative charge of having been born from this relationship. And so he needed to pass through fire to cleanse himself. Again, the time that it's written and the mode that it's written in and the way that it was communicated to Chaim Vital, all of that is it's really, it has its time. But what we can get from it, see, what you learn is how you learn a text like this is you learn it in its own terms. But then what you can take from it is very valuable, in my opinion. So please, be loose enough to read a text on its own terms, in terms of how a person thinks and the framework of life as he sees it, and the dichotomy of good and evil and all that. But the message is that we are really completely composite beings, and that the negative has been given to us in order for us to, it's like raw material. We've been given raw material, our emotions, that really we haven't been born perfect in any way. We've given those raw materials in order to bring them to refinement. And that's the work that our neshama came down to work on our nefesh and our ruach. Because the neshama gets incredible merit by perfecting an other. And then together we perfect the world. And Israel becomes the embodiment of that higher consciousness of rectification, of tikkun. I want to go on now into what he says about King David, which is the most exciting part of this. And now I think I've used up all my time. That's the problem with these kind of things.